Let's talk about Phil Foden,
Mhm.
because Phil Foden is struggling right now. Phil Foden has very, very few goal involvements, and everyone's kind of turning on him a little bit. No goals, 1 assist. And I was having a look at some clips of him today
Mm.
and trying to figure out what's the problem here. Before we get into that, how do you feel about the Phil Foden discourse? Because the Foden Saka thing
Yeah.
was pretty strong last year.
Mhm.
And Foden, if we're talking about 2024, Foden kind of won the first half of it.
Yeah.
But Arsenal fans and anyone who doesn't really like Man City are probably absolutely reveling in the woes of Phil Foden right now.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
It's hard for star boys. It's hard out here for star boys because the thing is, you get all the adulation, all the love, right? You get from your own fans. You are who the fans live vicariously through, and that's Phil Foden for Man City fans. That's Bukayo Saka for Arsenal fans.
Mhm.
To an extent, that's Marcus Rashford to Man United fans, but again, that wavers. But for Phil Foden, we cannot deny that he had an incredible 23-24 Premier League season. As Player of the Year, scored some really important goals for Man City in the Champions League, that goal against Real Madrid, in the league, some really important goals in big games. And then it was almost built to a crescendo, and the Euros was a crescendo.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Phil Foden, he has never, ever done an England shirt.
Mm.
And it's a positional thing, I think, because in the way that Gareth Southgate set up England, it was never suited or tailored towards Phil Foden in terms of what he brings to the game and his best attributes. And I think if you juxtapose that with Bukayo Saka, it seems like his career rival. They've got that Gerrard Lampard thing going at the moment. It's night and day. Saka's always good for England.
Mm.
Saka can deliver and play in different positions. There's talks about him playing a wing back, which differ a little bit. Playing on the right, he can play on the left. Saka could do it all, and he's a very, very gifted player. And so when you compare that, especially when you talk to fan bases and they want to elevate their star boy over another one, and then you can look at Phil Foden's start to the season, it all culminates in the narrative changing around Phil Foden. And I don't think it deserves to change around Phil Foden. He's still an incredible footballer. City haven't been good.
Mm.
He hasn't been good. He's been in and out. Took him a long time to get back into City starting 11 at the beginning of the season. And I think we're seeing the consequences of a long, long year for Phil Foden.
Yeah, it's a good point. It highlights the awkwardness of, I guess, the sort of tribal nature of domestic football in conjunction with being England fans, two players that should be great for England.
Mm.
For those of you guys that don't know, Kweku we were just talking about it here, was living a trippy life in the summer, where you were literally pitch side on what looked like literally every game of the Euros.
Yeah.
Working for a TV broadcaster there, doing amazing stuff. So proud seeing you up there. But I was at a couple of England games. I had drunk a lot more, I imagine, than you had. So, in terms of that Euros, what were the sort of sights and smells that kind of you sort of saw when it came to England? Because I think like you say, it does feel like it's sort of ground to a halt with his England performances overall. Although I think he had a good first half in the semi-final, and if something didn't fall for him there,
he was really good in the first half of the semi-final. I think that's the best Phil Foden that we saw or we've seen in an England shirt. He was really, really good. And you think, okay, this might be the Phil Foden game. I think he needs a Phil Foden game. Like Bukayo Saka scored that last-minute goal for England against Switzerland.
Yeah.
And we've seen Jude Bellingham had that overhead kick, and there've been players that have had games. Phil Foden hasn't had that. And you said about the sights and the smells. It's more the sound. Phil Foden's name was getting sung more than any other England player. Phil Foden on fire was ringing out every England game. And so I think with Phil Foden, there's we all want him to succeed. We're all waiting for him. Remember in the Euro 2020, which was actually 2021, he dyed his hair blonde. The Gaza thing.
Yeah, great.
We all want it. We all see it. We see the talent. He's one of the most talented players we've ever produced. But apart from playing under Pep Guardiola, we've not seen Phil Foden perform. And that's the issue.
And so, in terms of those, because if you go Man City first half of the year, flying, and then you've got that England team, then you've got Man City now. The other thing that's getting thrown at Phil Foden is that he's a system player.
Yes.
And that he doesn't have. I don't want to use the word character because I think that's lazy, incredibly lazy. But the ability to drag the team. For someone who's now 24 and there's been so much hype and a general understanding and an acceptance of his talent, I think, like you say, the Euros when he dyes his hair blonde when this summer, again, you're kind of expecting him to be the guy. And I think at Man City last year, he was given the keys to a point, but he seemed to have some better. He had some better components around him. And I was looking at clips. What I'll do is, so we've got a brand new channel called More James Alcott. We'll pop this onto that channel, and I'll show you some screenshots because I was looking at some of his clips, and the big thing for me is two things. One, lack of cohesion with the players around him. Like when you look at that Liverpool game, there are moments when he is in that 10 position, and if he wants to do not the wrong thing, but like just absolutely not the right thing. And what I mean is just feel it out. Like I think we all are expecting him to be that kind of player that just feel it out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
His football's gone past that, unfortunately. And
Well,
again,
he's been in the epicenter of that
being phased out. And again, Phil Foden's it's unfortunate the circumstances around him, but a player that we all see is feeling out right now is another Man City Academy graduate, and Cole Palmer. He's doing that at Chelsea. And I think people also juxtaposing Phil Foden to Cole Palmer, who is a player that is giving you that feeling. He's restoring that feeling. Enzo Maresca talked about Cole Palmer in the post-match interview after the game against Aston Villa. He said he's why you pay money to go and watch football. And Phil Foden is that, but he's been restricted by a system that's been the most effective system this country's ever seen.
Yes. Yeah, with the best players as well, and all the ingredients that you need within a team as well, which is something that's being put at Pep Guardiola as well. I actually have something went zing in my head, and probably other people have said this, but we're going to talk about players that had a glow up. Cole Palmer is in that list, and I'll give you a comparison. I feel like he is a certain person, but in football, and I'll tell you that a little bit later on. But what I will say about Phil Foden is that, again, some of the clips I'm finding here, some of the screenshots. One, he makes sort of little smart, correct runs to help the team out, and then he's isolated. He's not got the runners that he wants around him. There's moments when he's got kind of Gundogan in his space or Mateus Nunes kind of in his space. There's moments where he's like, there's just no chemistry within that team right now in terms of understanding where different players are. But also, I think what's important is that when Cole Palmer, it's a good example, when Cole Palmer's got the ball or when Messi's got the ball, everyone runs off him. He is the core of the team. He's been given the keys, or even Mohamed Salah. We've done a video on the Premier League this week, and what you really see is how smart he is, but also the players around him they're thinking about him.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a couple of moments as well. There's a moment where he does well, gives the ball to Jeremy Doku, and he's going like this. He's got his arms out and kind of give it back to me. I've got something in mind.
Yeah.
And Jeremy Doku doesn't do it. There's another moment where Rico Lewis is driving the ball through the sort of center of the pitch in transition. I think if Phil Foden's a more sort of angry, give me the fucking ball guy, Rico Lewis would have already known that before even having to look, because he wouldn't be going, what should I do? He would be thinking, where is Phil Foden?
Yeah.
And from the stuff I'm watching, especially the Liverpool game, I feel like he needs to get angry.
100%. He needs to be more demonstrative. And I know that Jude Bellingham's been in the media a lot recently, talking about his experiences post Euros and the criticism. That's because Jude Bellingham wants it all. He's got the patterns in celebration. On the pitch, he is the anchor. Your eyes are on Jude Bellingham the whole 90 minutes. Same as Cole Palmer, like I said, same as Mo Salah. Those guys are, with Mo Salah and Cole Palmer, on penalties. They are everything to their football clubs. There's not even a thought in Maresca's mind, if things aren't going well for Chelsea, I'm going to substitute Cole Palmer. He's never coming off. And neither is Salah, neither is Saka. And for Phil Foden, because he's not as demonstrative, because he is kind of happy to play a part in a system, because he's not going to ruffle feathers, and because he's from the academy as well, it all culminates in a Phil Foden that's maybe not reached the levels that we expected in terms of it's not comparable to his ability. Ability-wise, I don't think we've seen, maybe barring Wayne Rooney. Yeah, maybe just Wayne Rooney, just pure talent-wise, ability with the ball at your feet. Only Wayne Rooney I can say that we produced over the last 20, 30 years is a better footballer than Phil Foden. But with football, it comes with more than just your ability with the ball at your feet. It's a sense of the moment. It's a sense of grabbing things. And for Phil Foden, I don't think he grabs things enough.
I think, I agree with you. I think we've said that, we had this conversation before. I'm sure I've said this line a few times, so try not to groan, guys, if you're listening. Some players are in a rush. to be great.
Mm.
And I feel like he's actually gone. He's got taken the keys of his own career and kind of given them to Pep.
Yep.
Which is a great person to give it to.
100%.
He's got Premier League titles, everything's fine. And I think that's why I wanted this conversation with you, because this isn't is he better or worse than Saka? They're different players. He's in a tricky period of his career, but he's at one of the best clubs in the world. Rodri will return, and if Rodri doesn't return, they'll buy someone else, and he will continue to be a great player in a great team. But I want to see him. I just want to see him get angry.
Grab it.
Yeah, and do you know what I was thinking about in terms of, because he's 24 now, so there is that moment, isn't there, where you kind of go, well, you've had enough years to develop now. Like, you should be the main man. And I was thinking that maybe he needed, the Harry Kane years on loan.
Yeah.
Different players have, and some players don't need it. Lionel Messi didn't need that. But say Bellingham at Birmingham, knowing that you're not in the best team, not owning the ball, you're having to grind your teeth and get through it. I'm not sure Phil Foden's had to do that. Even in these years as he's been progressing, Kevin's there, Rodri's there, Haaland's there, Aguero's there, Vincent's there. And now it's like, it's you now.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to be the guy, doesn't he?
Trophies wise, this might not be true, but Phil Foden's career might elevate post working under Pep Guardiola, just in terms of perception of Phil Foden, because he always makes the right decision, but sometimes the right decision is not the right thing for you personally.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in football these days, it's about your personal brand.
Yeah.
And the personal brand or the stocks in Phil Foden are at all-time low right now. And they shouldn't be in terms of the player that he is. So you look at a player that Pep brought through at Barcelona, Busquets. And if Busquets worked on Pep Guardiola for the whole of his career, we might just view him as a Pep player, as a system player. Pep left and Busquets was still Busquets.
Yeah.
Busquets maybe even elevated his game under Luis Enrique in the 14-15 season. I think that's the best Busquets I've seen. And so maybe when Pep is gone, I know he's got another 2 years left at City after signing that new contract, we might see a Phil Foden with the shackles released a little bit. A Phil Foden that maybe takes a few more chances. A Phil Foden that doesn't always make the right decision. But in doing that, for example, Cole Palmer scored a goal against Aston Villa from outside the box. That maybe wasn't the right decision. Maybe play a ball through somebody else, but he shot and he scored. And so it's tough on Phil Foden because he's lived a very, very charmed existence in football under the best manager and the best team for the last 5, 6, 7 years. But right now, as football fans, we want more. We're asking for more. We want to see Ballon d'Or Phil. We want to see this kid from Stockport go and do everything. And unfortunately, right now, he's stagnated a little bit.
And I wanted to. He said in an interview, we need to not think about it too much. And it's like, yes, like stop thinking about it. Just like, and he was talking about players from Stockport being those street, or Manchester being those street footballers as well. Like, again, like I agree with you, but I think in modern football, when you have everything filmed and little videos for you to deal with, your opponents, you've got to do something. Actually, those players who are going to do something that you're not expecting, that's the only way. That's becoming the only way through. That sort of box to box, Gerrard, I'll fix this guy. Yeah. Aside from Bellingham, there's not many of those kind of players. Those guys who I'll fix it now are those 10s. It's Cole Palmer. It's it should be Phil Foden. And just to go back to this Salah video, what was great, what's so good when we do these player profiles, you look at these clips and you're just like, oh, I didn't realize how good these guys are. And with Salah, he's 3 sort of steps ahead. And so therefore, he's doing things that seem risky and wrong, but he knows what the defenders know. Yeah. So there's the goal against Man United. He does this. He's sort of going towards Delot, and Delot's thinking, shit, please go down the byline, or at least showing him that way. Yeah. Bruno Fernandes is coming to help out. Yeah. So everything should be fine. And as Salah's going, he can see and surveil this, and he does this Trivela pass with the outside of his left foot as he's stepping. No one's going to teach you that. Yeah. Like it has to be. You need to create the glitch in the system, and Phil Foden's got absolutely everything in the toolbox to go and do that. So as much as he's struggling right now, one thing I would say, optics wise, when Man City were doing all right at the start of the season before Rodri was, injured, he wasn't playing. So that's one thing. In terms of his stats, his key passes are somehow higher, but his passes into the final or in the final third are quite significantly lower on last season. Yeah. So I think the one thing to say is that as much as it we're kind of putting it on him because we know he's got it in him.
Mm.
The sort of the characteristics around him, I think he's struggling with a little bit. Like you say, Maddison, he gets up, he's got Solanke running, Brendan Johnson running, Son, Cole Palmer, he's got Madueke, he's got these guys. When Foden's looking up,
Come on, Teus Nunes at the moment playing out wide.
he's got Gundogan. Okay, so we're going backwards a bit then. Like not having to go at Gundogan. Gundogan would arrive. He was a ghost. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
But there's just a lot missing right now.
There is a lot missing. And do you know what? This will make Phil Foden a better player in the long run. Because City are they're almost inhuman in terms of what they've done over the last 3 or 4 seasons. They are not going to win the Premier League this season. I think that's dumb. And I think when they do eventually come back to prominence, it will make it feel a bit more real. 5 in a row would have just felt like what we do. It would be an indictment on the Premier League, especially if you lose your Ballon d'Or winner and you still win the league.
Yeah.
And so I think this we'll appreciate what Man City do a lot more next season if they do come back and they rebuild. And Phil Foden will no doubt be at the centre of that because he is such an incredible player. Talks about players going out on loan. There's a reason why.
Are you saying Phil Foden should go on loan? We'll have it.
The reason why Pep didn't allow Phil Foden to go out on loan, he knew how special that kid was. There was a huge push from fans to push Phil Foden to the first 11, and Pep took his time with him. I think that's the reason why Phil Foden's got to this level. But now we want to see more, and we will see more because he's such an incredible player. But if you just look at the raw numbers in terms of goals and no goals in the first 10 games of the Premier League season, that's not good enough for players because Phil Foden scored 19 league goals last year.
I think there's fun youngster era, and then there's I'm an adult era, and he's an adult.
Saka's there as well. It's almost like Arsenal fans can't. I watch Saka week in, week out, and I'm like, you are incredible. You're amazing. What you do astounds me. But Arsenal fans almost can't enjoy it because we're in the win now era. Man City are also, they've been in the win now era for a long time. I think where maybe they tail off towards back in the season, they take the foot off they just release it a little bit because they know they're not going to win it. I think that you'll maybe see a bit more of a fun Phil Foden. We saw Eden Hazard in the, what season was it? The 15-16 season where he had a terrible start to the year. And towards the back end of it, obviously scored a goal against Spurs, scored a goal against Liverpool. The handbrakes were off and you saw a bit more of a fun Eden Hazard and he went again the next season. I think we'll see a more fun Phil Foden towards the back end of it.